From homeless black man to millionaire. Inspired by Elon Musk and Donald Trump, Marcus shivered in his threadbare jacket, the cold San Francisco wind clawing at his skin. His stomach rumbled like a distant thunderstorm, empty and aching. Around him, city lights flickered off glass towers. But down here, on the cracked concrete by Fisherman's Wharf, life was raw and messy. Marcus was homeless, yet in his heart blazed a fierce dream. Fueled by the tales of Elon Musk and Donald Trump, men who pulled themselves from nothing and grabbed the world by the throat. Each morning, Marcus clung to that dream, wiping the grime from his face with a rag, eyes sharp for any scrap, any break, searching near a sprawling mansion he had never dared approach before. Something unusual caught his eye. A swirl of panic, voices raised, and sharp questions cutting through the usual city noise like a knife. Elon Musk's sleek black Tesla sat parked, but nearby, the front yard was chaos. A woman, familiar but saint, now. She was missing, tangled in secrets that buzzed louder than the city's constant honks and the distant cry of seagulls. The mansion's walls hid whispers, but Marcus felt the story pulling at him like a current beneath the surface. He crouched in the shadows, watching as a line of questions was fired at Elon Musk himself, a man who looked more human with worry etched across his face than the media machines ever showed. The crowd muttered, pulling tighter. "Where's she gone? What was she doing here so late?" Someone hissed about a shady businessman spotted near the mansion before the woman disappeared. His coat too dark, his eyes colder than the night. Marcus's chest tightened. What no one knew yet was that this woman held more than a mystery. She held the key to a family secret buried deep in Marcus's past. His hands trembled when he touched the cracked photo inside his pocket. A photo of the woman and a man he thought he'd never meet. Now, every step he took was a race again. Elon Musk, the billionaire, desperate for the truth. Marcus, desperate to believe he could rise above the grime. The shady businessman's gaze burned like dark lightning, promising danger no one expected. Suddenly, Marcus's phone buzzed, sharp, urgent. A voice, trembling and fearful, crackled through. The woman had returned, alive, but trapped, in danger far worse than anyone guessed. Everything slammed into Marcus all at once, a surge of hope tangled with panic. His dream dangling by a thread. Could he fight for this mystery, for his chance at a new life? Or would the past drag him back into the cold? He stood at the edge of the street, breath ragged, heart pounding like a drumbeat in the night. The city blazed around him, alive and unforgiving. The question burned hotter than the streetlights. What next? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. He stood at the edge of the street, breath ragged, heart pounding like a drumbeat in the night. The city blazed around him, alive and unforgiving. The question burned hotter than the streetlights. What next? Marcus took a step forward, ready to dive into the chaos of the mansion's front yard. But before he could make a move, A low rumble broke through the night, a sound that felt out of place in the ordinary city noise. The ground trembled slightly beneath his feet. Something was coming. Then it happened. A flash lit the sky. A figure erupted from the mansion, barreling toward Marcus like a whirlwind. It was Elon Musk himself, eyes wide with a mix of fear and urgency. Behind him, a figure loomed, a man in a dark coat who seemed to blend into the shadows, eyes piercing and cold. He held something tight, something wrapped in dark cloth. "Get back!" Elon shouted, his face a mix of desperation and command. The crowd gasped, confusion swirling like leaves in a storm. Marcus felt the air tense, the moment stretching thin like a tightrope. "What's happening?" someone yelled, panic rising among the onlookers. Instead of answering, Elon lunged forward. He was quick, movements sharp, and Marcus felt pulled to him like a moth to a flame. The shadowy figure seemed to smirk, the darkness around him growing thicker. Then, in a heartbeat, everything shattered. The dark figure raised the wrapped bundle. "She belongs to me," he spat, voice dripping with malice. And with that, he pulled back the cloth, revealing a familiar face. Marcus's heart dropped like a stone. It was the woman. But something was wrong. Her eyes were wild, lost in terror, and around her neck, a necklace glinted under the streetlights, revealing a family crest that sent shockwaves through Marcus. It was his family's crest. The truth crashed over him like a wave. This woman wasn't just a stranger from the streets. She was tied to him in ways he had never suspected. The mystery unfurling before him was more personal than he ever thought. Elon's eyes caught Marcus's. An instant of understanding passed between them, deep and urgent. "Help me!" Elon yelled, reaching out, but the shady figure laughed, each chuckle slathered with cruel satisfaction. "You think you can save her? You don't even know who she is." Every face in the crowd turned, eyes wide, breath held. The woman's pleas echoed in Marcus's mind, tangled with memories he didn't know were buried so deep. He could feel the weight of 1,000 eyes, all waiting for him to move, to act. "Who is she?" Marcus yelled back, his voice shaking with fear and anger. The man grinned, an unsettling, triumphant look. "Your past, Marcus! Your blood! This is where you belong!" He spat, and the air turned icy as silence fell, thickening like fog. Something shifted within Marcus. Dreams of becoming a millionaire, of escaping the gutter, crashed against the reality of betrayal, of secrets that made him question everything he thought he knew. His world spun, a churning cyclone of truth and dark danger. To save the woman was to confront the past he'd tried so hard to escape. And now, with her life hanging in the balance, he was left gasping for a decision. As tension erupted like a storm, Marcus felt the weight of his legacy press down on him harder than any cold night on the street. The question rumbled deep in his chest. What did he truly want? Did he dare to step into the shadows of his own lineage? And just as the crowd surged forward, everything changed in an instant. A flash of light, a scream, and the shattering of glass reverberating through the night. Before Marcus could react, everything went dark. Marcus stood at the edge of the street, breath ragged, heart pounding like a drumbeat in the night. The city's shimmering lights pulsed around him, but none of that mattered. The woman was alive. He had to act. He swiped frantically at his phone, his fingers shaking. "Where are you?" he whispered, hoping against hope for a reply. Suddenly, the night shattered. A scream pierced the air, rising above the honking cars and clucking seagulls. The sound ripped through the chaos like a knife. Marcus's heart dropped. He turned to see the crowd from earlier jumble in a whirlwind of panic. "Get back!" someone shouted. The crowd surged, pushing Marcus forward. He stumbled, then righted himself, eyes scanning frantically. That's when he saw it, a commotion by the Tesla. Two men were grappling another figure to the ground, their silhouettes blocking the glow of the streetlights, shadows dancing dangerously. Marcus froze, every muscle tensing. A familiar face emerged from the turmoil. The woman! She thrashed against her captors, her scream rising like a wildfire, wild and desperate. "Help me!" she cried, eyes darting wildly searching. "Stop! Leave her alone!" Marcus shouted, fists clenched at his sides. The words clawed their way out of his throat, raw and urgent. He couldn't just stand there. The crowd watched, a mixture of horror and fascination painted across their faces. A spark ignited inside Marcus. He charged forward. The world narrowed. Nothing else mattered. This woman, the key to his story, was in danger. Then a flash of chaos. One man shouted, "Don't let him get involved!" before he swung around, grappling for something hidden in his coat. Panic mounted as Marcus felt the adrenaline rush through him. This was not just about helping her. This was personal. Dark eyes locked onto him, as if they could steal the hope blossoming in his chest. But then, everything stopped. A gunshot! A single deafening crack that echoed through the night. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. The crowd gasped, some stumbling back, others wide-eyed. Marcus felt ice coursing through his veins. He looked again. Pain morphed into a different kind of terror. The woman's eyes went wide, staring, not at him or her captors, but behind them. Marcus followed her gaze. It was then that the earth seemed to quake beneath him. A figure emerged from the shadow depths, stepping into the light of the street lamp. The man from the photo in his pocket. A man he thought was lost to whispers of the past. The crowd's buzz faded into a dull thrum as he approached, calm and composed. The dark businessman. The shadows slithered around him, casting an unsettling aura. "Marcus," he said, voice smooth as silk, yet laced with danger. "I'm glad you could join us." Marcus's heart hammered, confusion and disbelief flooding through him. The woman gasped, recognition breaking across her face. You're alive?" she stammered. The questions raced through Marcus's mind, faster than he could catch them. Who was this man? What did he want? His past swirled in fragments, threatening to unravel everything he thought he knew. As the reality crashed in, this man, the memories he tried to escape clashing with the moment, he realized the danger was far greater than he imagined. The woman's fate, his dream of a new life, everything hinged on this moment. The night pulsed with electricity. Marcus took a step forward, heart racing, breath caught in his throat. "What do you want from us?" But the answer never came. Instead, the shadowy figure reached into his coat. A sudden chill swept through the crowd. Was it a gun? A knife? All Marcus could do was hold his breath, and then everything shifted. Marcus stood there, heart racing, the world around him narrowing to the thrum of uncertainty. The dark figure's fingers curled tighter around whatever was hidden in his coat. Tension rocketed into the crowd, faces shifting from awe to fear. Everyone held their breath, waiting for something to happen. Then, with a sudden flick of his wrist, the shadowy man revealed his hand. It wasn't a weapon. Instead, he held a small, shimmering device. Something technological, but something more, lost in the dim light. All at once, the atmosphere shifted as curiosity replaced fear. "What is that?" Marcus shouted, a mix of confusion and anger clouding his thoughts. The man grinned, predatory and sharp. "You don't even know, do you?" he taunted, eyes glinting with perilous glee. "You don't know what family truly means." Before Marcus could understand, the device in the man's hand pulsed with light. With an elegant flick, a beam shot out, brightening the space between them. The glow soared upward, illuminating the night sky, bathing everything in a surreal sheen. Gasps echoed from the crowd. Some stepped back, others squinted, mesmerized. And then it happened. Images began to flicker in the air, vivid and shattering, like a movie playing for everyone to see. Memories. Memories that weren't just his. They were hers. The woman's face appeared, smiling, young and carefree. Laughter floated in the air, but then it morphed. The joy twisted and turned into something darker. Shadows merging around her in the flashes. People Marcus barely knew flashed like ghosts, familiar yet strange. He felt bile rise in his throat. "No, no, no," he murmured, shaking his head as more scenes unfolded. A house, a family dinner, people mingling. But something was off. Gasps again as Marcus saw the truth. No one could escape. "Marcus!" The woman's voice, snapping him to attention, echoed from the projected visions. "You have to understand." He's... But the shadowy man raised his hand, silencing her. The images warped again, snapping back to grim moments, arguments, betrayal, anger. Confusion washed over him like a flood. "This is where you come from." The shadow man boomed with sudden fury, commanding the crowd's attention. "Your bloodline, Marcus. You're not just a street rat. You have a legacy, a powerful one. And she wants it for herself." Marcus's heart thudded painfully. His mind raced. Boom, boom. This woman had been fighting for her life. Her eyes, filled with terror, met his. And in that moment, he realized the truth, twisted his insides. "Wait!" he shouted, voice breaking through the barrage of memories. "What are you talking about?" But before anyone could answer, another echo rang out, piercing the air. A gunshot. A loud, splintering noise that fractured everything. The crowd erupted into chaos. Shoving, screaming, desperation. Marcus jolted. Instinct taking over as he stepped protectively towards the woman. "Stay back!" he yelled to the shadows. But panic spread like wildfire. In the fray, the woman was being pulled back. the dark figure laughing, his voice a chilling whisper in the chaos. And then, the truth hit like a bolt of lightning. You're my sister?" he blurted out, breathless, barely processing. Could it be possible? That connection sparked a new fear, a fire of realization igniting with more fury. She nodded. "I didn't know, Marcus. I swear, but I've been looking for you." Before he could process the fallout of those words, something shattered in the crowd. A bright flash of light fell over them, and Marcus felt the universe tilt. In the turmoil, the shadowy man lunged for the device, but it flared, exploding in brilliant sparks that sent everyone tumbling backward. Amid the chaos, everything went hazy. Marcus was thrown back, the world swirling into darkness. But in those fleeting moments, he caught a glimpse of the woman, now not just a stranger, but a sister, her eyes wide with both fear and determination. The night faded, but the question hung in the air. What new reality awaited them when the dust settled? Marcus stood at the edge of the street, breath ragged, heart pounding like a drumbeat in the night. The city blazed around him, alive and unforgiving. The buzz of his phone shattered his thoughts. He raised it to his ear, listening intently. The voice on the other end shook with fear. "She's back," the voice gasped. "But it's not what you think. She's changed. You have to see for yourself." Marcus's heart raced. "Where?" he demanded, the urgency cutting through his confusion. "The old warehouse by the docks. Hurry!" With no time to lose, he sprinted down the street, dodging people and street vendors. The scent of salt and fish overwhelmed him as he neared the docks. His feet pounded against the pavement, the sound roaring in his ears, the adrenaline pushing him faster. The warehouse loomed ahead, dark and foreboding. It felt more like a tomb than a place of promise. The rusted door creaked as he pushed it open. Inside, shadows danced, flickering under a single dying bulb. A figure stood there, back turned. "Marcus?" she called, her voice trembling. It was the woman, the one everyone was talking about. "Are you okay?" What happened? He rushed towards her, worry clawing at his gut, but as she turned, his breath caught in his throat. She looked the same, yet completely different. Her eyes were wild, filled with something almost unfathomable, piercing. "Marcus, it's me," she whispered, but there was something raw, something unsettling in her voice. "I know everything." "What do you mean?" he asked, doubt creeping in. "I'm not just a missing woman. I'm part of something bigger. My family. Our families are tied together in ways you can't imagine." Confusion tangled in Marcus's mind. "What are you talking about?" Before she could respond, the door slammed shut behind him, echoing through the empty space. Heart racing, he spun around. A dark figure emerged from the shadows, a man with eyes that chilled Marcus to his core. "Welcome, Marcus," the stranger sneered, voice smooth as silk, but cold as ice. "What do you want?" Marcus demanded, determination hardening his resolve. "Don't you get it? You're in the middle of a game, a very dangerous game," the man explained, glancing at the woman. "She carries secrets in her blood. Secrets that could tear apart those who thought they knew everything." The woman trembled, tears brimming in her eyes. "I didn't choose this, Marcus." My family has been hiding the truth for generations. You're part of it. You just don't know yet." Marcus's mind raced, heartsick. What truth? What connection? "You're lying." "This doesn't make any sense." "Oh, does it ever?" the man interjected, sneering. "Your life has been a lie. You were set up to stumble, to fall, and now you're standing at the edge of the biggest reveal of your life." As his words settled like lead in the air, the woman stepped closer to Marcus. "If we don't find out the truth about who you really are, everything will fall apart. You're not just a dreamer, Marcus. You're a player in this game, and we need you." The weight of her words hung heavy between them as the shadowy figure advanced, malice in his eyes. Marcus felt the walls close in, his dreams of rising above the grime, shifting into something menacing. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging them into darkness. A piercing scream echoed, followed by a sudden crash. In that moment, everything spiraled, leaving Marcus grasping at fragments of his reality, all exiting the old warehouse. Everything he thought he knew, now questioning him back. What would happen next? The air was thick with possibility, and a dark thrill curled in his ribs. He stood there, frozen, as the uncertainty gnawed at his flesh. Marcus stood at the edge of the street, breath ragged, heart pounding. The city glowed around him, alive and unforgiving. With every heartbeat, the question twisted in his mind. What next? His phone buzzed again, more urgent this time. He pressed it to his ear, the voice on the other end trembling. "Marcus, she's in trouble. You have to hurry." "Where?" he gasped, his heart racing. "Where is she?" "There's a warehouse by the pier. She's locked inside." The voice trembled, fear evident in every syllable. "You're not alone in this. Someone's been watching her. Watching you." Panic clawed at Marcus, his stomach churning. "Who?" "Just get there, now!" The call cut off, leaving silence ringing in his ears. He didn't think. He sprinted, legs pumping like pistons. The street blurred past him, the bright city lights fading into shadows as he moved. He could see the pier in the distance, anger coursing through his veins, urgency burning out fear. But as he approached the warehouse, a new sound pierced the air, shouts and a sudden crash. The doors flew open, and his heart dropped. There stood Elon Musk, fists raised, yelling at a man in a dark coat, the same shady businessman who had been whispered about. And then everything shattered. The battle tripped on. The man turned, frustration morphing into shock as he faced Musk. "You don't understand. You can't save her. It's not what you think." There was a sickening crack as the businessman swung, and suddenly a flash of steel glimmered in the moonlight. The world spun as Marcus froze, staring in horror. Musk fell back, clutching his arm, surprise etched across his face, and Marcus's heart dropped even further. This wasn't just a rescue. This was a fight for survival. The stakes had skyrocketed beyond anything he'd imagined. And then, out of the shadows, a figure emerged. It was the woman, the one they all thought was missing. But she stood there, eyes blazing, a hidden fury behind them. "Stop! You don't know who you're dealing with." Her voice rang out, cutting through the chaos. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. She wasn't just a victim. She was entangled in something much deeper, something dark and twisted. The crowd around them, drawn by the commotion, held their breath, stunned and silent. "What are you doing here?" Musk yelled, voice laced with confusion and pain. "I came to end this," she replied fiercely, stepping forward. "This is about more than me, more than you." Marcus stumbled back, the weight of revelations crashing down. He thought he was chasing a dream, a chance to rise. But now, the woman he had connected with through flickers of familiarity was revealing something terrifying. She wasn't just a key to his past. She was an active player in a dangerous game. The sudden revelation hit him like a punch to the gut. Everything he'd been fighting for, the dreams inspired by Musk and Trump, hung by a thread far more delicate than he realized. Musk's expression darkened, realization dawning. "What do you mean?" he demanded. The crowd leaned in, whispers fluttering like wings. "Because," she snapped, "your success feeds their greed, Elon. And they'll stop at nothing to keep it from you." Marcus stood frozen, every pulse of adrenaline screaming that he should run. Yet here, at the fringes of a world that seemed so vast, he felt a desperate connection to the unfolding chaos. The truth felt heavy, ominous, as if the walls were closing in. Now he had to choose. The past, tangled with the future, loomed over him like a storm. Would he dig deeper, risking it all? Or would his dream fade before his eyes, swallowed by the very darkness he was trying to escape? As he moved closer, everything around him exploded into motion. The night grew thicker with uncertainty, and he could feel the weight of destiny pressing down. What was his next move in a game where the rules changed so suddenly? The answer danced just out of reach, but he knew one thing: this was just the beginning. Marcus stood at the edge of the street, breath ragged, heart pounding like a drumbeat in the night. The buzzing in his pocket grew louder, a siren's call. He hesitated, fingers trembling as he pulled out his phone. The voice on the other end was frantic, filled with urgency. "Marcus, you have to hurry! She's in trouble!" In that moment, an unseen force drew him forward, propelling him toward the chaos he had just observed. No longer a passive witness, he felt a surge of determination. "Where is she?" he pressed, urgency clawing at his throat. The reply was jumbled, a mix of fear and frantic whispers. "The old warehouse by the docks. You need to get there now." He sprinted, each step echoing the pulse of his racing heart. Distracted by the pulse of the city, he nearly collided with a group of tourists snapping selfies, their laughter a stark contrast to the dread building within him. That's when it happened. A strange flicker at the edge of his vision. A figure, cloaked and shadowy, lurked in an alley. Marcus froze. Something about that silhouette felt wrong. It was too familiar. A jolt of recognition surged through him. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a face he hadn't seen in years. It was his brother, Jacob, the very man whose disappearance had shattered Marcus's childhood. "Jacob!" Marcus shouted, confusion swirling in his mind. "What are you doing here?" Jacob's eyes darted nervously, scanning the street before locking onto Marcus. "You shouldn't be here, Marcus. It's dangerous." His voice was hoarse, breath quick. "What do you mean? Is it about her?" Marcus's chest tightened. "Why didn't you tell me you were back?" I can't. We don't have time," Jacob urged, but it was too late. A scream pierced the air, slicing through the tension. Panic erupted like a firestorm. Marcus's instincts kicked in. Together, they raced toward the sound, but as they rounded the corner, the scene shifted. A squad of police cars blared their lights, illuminating chaos in a swirling mess of uniforms and frantic faces. Officers were pushing back a crowd, the atmosphere charged with confusion and dread. Then they saw her, the woman. She was being pulled from the back of a black vehicle, hands bound, eyes wild with fear. But it wasn't just the sight of her that sent shockwaves through Marcus. Jacob's face twisted. A flash of something, betrayal, guilt, crossed his features. "Get back!" Jacob hissed, panic rising. The crowd grew restless, tension spiking. Murmurs spread. "What's going on? Who's that?" Everything blurred. Marcus felt the air thicken. His heart hammered louder with every second. The woman, she was not just a victim. She was someone important, someone who wove through their family's chaos. Suddenly, like a lightning strike, the truth pierced Marcus's mind. "Jacob, tell me the truth. Who is she?" Jacob's eyes widened, the storm of emotions crashing like waves. You don't understand, Marcus. She's our sister. The impact hit like a freight train." What had he just heard? Every memory of their childhood, of pain and separation, rippled through him like a tidal wave. Confusion morphed into a vortex of truths buried long ago. He was not just saving a stranger, he was saving family. But as the police pulled the woman into their protective fold, Jacob's tension skyrocketed. "They can't find out," he whispered. "None of this is safe for any of us." A cacophony of voices surrounded them, the night alive with chaos. Marcus stood there, every nerve on fire, questioning everything. The stakes were higher now. There was no turning back. He was caught between the past and present, family and fate. And as he looked at Jacob, all he saw was an uncertain future, a puzzle with missing pieces. What next? He thought, heart racing with the weight of the truth, and the shadows still lurking behind them. The tension in the air crackled like static. Marcus stood frozen, heart racing, mind whirling. His brother Jacob had just revealed a truth that shattered everything he thought he understood. They were tied to this woman, a sister he never knew he had. But then chaos erupted. The police moved in closer, their voices sharp and authoritative, drowning out the surrounding noise. Everything felt like a whirlpool of confusion and adrenaline. Suddenly, an officer pushed through the crowd, shoving back anyone who got too close. "Back up! This is an active situation," he yelled, voice booming above the throng. Panic wafted through the crowd. Whispers of fear and uncertainty muttered from person to person. "Marcus, we have to get her out!" Jacob's voice cut through the turmoil. He grabbed Marcus's arm, urgency lacing his words. But before Marcus could respond, something snapped inside him. An impulse forced him to turn around. Everything shifted within a single heartbeat. A muffled explosion erupted from the direction of the black vehicle, followed by the clanking of metal. Everyone screamed, rushing to escape the chaos. The loud crash sent shards of glass tumbling like deadly raindrops. One sharp edge caught Marcus's arm, the sting igniting pain, but he barely felt it. Below the shock, adrenaline surged like a wildfire. Then he saw her again, the woman, their sister. She was struggling, eyes wide, filled with a mix of fear and something else. Desperation? Resolve? In that moment, everything inside Marcus screamed to save her. He pushed through the throng, hands gripping faces and shoulders, trying to reach her. But just as he did, he heard a voice, smooth, calm, and commanding, yet laced with malice. "You think you can save her?" It was the shady businessman, standing just a few feet away, that dark grin creeping across his face like a spider stitching a web. Every sinew in Marcus's body tightened, instinct screaming danger. "Why don't you come a little closer?" the man taunted, eyes glinting, moving in closer. "You don't even know what you're dealing with." Then, without warning, the world twisted. The woman screamed, a primal sound filled with terror. Panic erupted anew as a figure surged from behind her. A flash of movement, someone pulling her away, someone with striking familiarity. It was their father, the man Marcus thought was dead. "Stay away from her," the man shouted, his voice low and threatening. The crowd gasped in disbelief, confusion swirling through the air like fog. Marcus's mind raced. "Dad?" Marcus murmured, disbelief clawing at his throat. You're alive?" The abruptness of it all slammed into him like a freight train. As the figures clashed, Jacob stepped back, shock painting his face, eyes wide. "How could you?" he started, but the words left his mouth like a stunned whisper. The woman, their sister, broke free from their father's grip, her eyes darting between them. "You don't understand." Her voice jumped, frantic. "He's not who you think he is." Every breath hung heavy. The revelation twisted in Marcus's gut like a knife. The pain pulsed, and his heart raced. "Who are you?" Marcus demanded, voice breaking under the weight of the truth he couldn't grasp. Their father took a step forward, eyes dark and serious. "I've been protecting you. You're all in danger. This goes deeper than we ever imagined." Marcus felt the ground shift beneath him. Everything he had known snapped with a quiet pop. The ties of blood and betrayal clashed like thunder, echoing in the silence around them. The air thickened, heavy with unanswered questions. The web of secrets grew tighter. The crowd was frozen in shock, each face reflecting confusion, pain, realization. And as all eyes turned to their father, Marcus found himself standing at the precipice of something dark and terrifying. The truth had unraveled, and he was left standing, breathless, teetering over the edge of a fate he was only beginning to understand. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words would come. In that charged air, the question lingered, an unyielding weight. How deep did this betrayal run? Marcus stood there, breathless, staring at the man he thought was a ghost. The realization of his father's presence twisted his heart into knots, unraveling the chaotic threads of his life. The woman, his sister, stood before him, her eyes pleading, searching for understanding in a world that had just flipped upside down. "What do you mean he's not who we think he is?" he shouted, echoing the confusion ringing in his ears. Their father stepped forward, energy radiating intensity. "I had to protect you." In the stunned silence that followed, Marcus's mind raced. How could the man who abandoned him now claim to be his protector? A storm brewed in the air, thick with unanswered questions and a swarm of emotions. Then, out of nowhere, a deafening crack shattered the moment. It felt like time stood still. The gunshot rang out, loud and terrifying. It echoed in his bones, causing the blood in his veins to freeze. Collapsing footsteps drowned out the chaos, and the crowd surged back, shrieking. Marcus turned, eyes wide, instincts kicking in. The figure of the shady businessman spun, his face contorted with rage. "You thought you could hide? You thought I wouldn't find you?" The panic shifted to Marcus like a seismic wave, crashing down as people began to scream. "Get down!" someone yelled, chaos erupting around them. "No!" The woman, their sister, suddenly threw herself towards the sound, desperation morphing her expression. "You can't! Don't hurt him!" "Get away!" Marcus shouted, lunging for her, but he was too slow. Chaos blurred his vision as he reached out. The tension snapped like a taut wire. In that split second, the man lunged forward with a knife, and Marcus's heart dropped into his stomach. Then, an impossible instant, the knife didn't strike Marcus. Instead, their father stepped in front of him, a look of grim determination clouding his features. The blade plunged deep until the glint of metal disappeared into his flesh. The scream that tore from Marcus's throat silenced everything. "Dad!" he yelled, shock gripping him like a vice. The barrier of time collapsed, and panic erupted as whispers from the crowd ignited. Gasps broke the air, and chaos clawed at the edges of reality. The world spun faster, blurring the lines between family and foes. "Run!" their father gasped, blood pooling at his feet. The man's sneer twisted into something vicious as he pulled back, laughing as their father crumpled like paper. "This was always about blood, Marcus. You just didn't know how deep it ran." Marcus's mind raced, turmoil mixing with horror. He had thought his past was a prison. Now it burst open like a shattered glass, revealing the truth. His father, in the shock of blood, might not be the man he thought he'd lost. All the lies. All the shadows, they were here, and his world was crumbling. But before he could react, a figure burst through the crowd. A woman with fiery determination, her presence pulling everyone's attention. It was their real mother, the one he had believed had vanished before his eyes, stepping into the light with a fierce scream. "Enough! This ends now!" He could see the man in the dark coat halt, stunned. The air crackled with revelation, and the world held its breath. The shapes of lost mysteries tangled closer than ever in the night. Everything he thought he knew slipped through his fingers like sand. The truth was spiraling, a complex dance of identity and danger. He felt small, lost amid revelations and bloodshed, the weight pressing down until he gasped for air. And as his eyes met his mother's, the darkness deepened. Would he stand and fight for family? Or would the truth of his existence consume him whole? Marcus's heart raced as he stared at the fallen figure of his father, blood pooling on the ground like spilled secrets. The world around him blurred, reality warping as panic poured through him. "No! Dad!" he shouted, pushing through the crowd of stunned spectators, their faces a mix of horror and disbelief. Time felt suspended, every moment stretching painfully as he knelt beside the man who had once seemed lost forever. "Stay with me, Marcus urged, desperation cracking his voice. Their father's eyes fluttered, pain etched across his face. "You're living, my boy, but there's so much you don't know." His words came out strained, breath shaky. As the chaos continued unraveling around them, the dark businessman loomed, shadows dancing on his sinister grin. "You think this ends well for you, Marcus? You're only beginning to see the game." The woman, his sister, rushed forward, tears streaking down her face. "We can't let him win," she proclaimed, fury igniting in her eyes. "We're stronger together." Marcus's head spun. Secrets and family ties twisted tighter than any grip of fate. With every breath, he felt the weight of generations piled high on his shoulders. "No more secrets," he vowed, adrenaline surging through him. "Let's finish this." As the buildings around them bore silent witness, Marcus turned to face the man who had haunted their lives. "You'll pay for what you've done," he declared, every word a promise. The shadowy man's grin faltered, his bravado slipping like sand between fingers. Then, the sound of sirens pierced through the tension, drowning out the chaos. Blinking lights danced as law enforcement swarmed the area, the crowd parting like water. "Drop your weapon," an officer shouted, and the air crackled with electricity. Unceasing panic fluttered. People surged forward, shouting, yelling for justice. The tension hit a fever pitch as the man backed away, eyes darting. "This isn't over," he hissed, slipping into the shadows as the officers closed in. Marcus turned back to his father. "You'll be okay," he repeated, hoping his voice would shoulder the truth of impending loss. His father's hand tightened briefly on Marcus's arm. The gesture, fragile yet full of unsaid love. "I'm proud of you," he whispered, before closing his eyes. "Stay with me." Tears blurred Marcus's vision, mixing with the flashes of red and blue that painted the scene like a surreal nightmare. But deep down, he knew they had to face the truth together. As the commotion settled, the crowd began to disperse. Murmurings of shock filled the air. Families reunited. Friends clung to each other. Emotions surged. And amidst it all, Marcus held the haunting reality of family. The ones he lost, the ones he just found, all tangled in the same web. Turning to his sister, he felt a flicker of hope igniting in his heart. "We can find the answers together," he whispered, their hands grasping tightly. The winds of uncertainty blew strong, but standing side by side, he felt as the officers escorted away the remnants of chaos. Marcus knew they would rise from the ashes of their shattered past. Together, they would unearth the truth, no matter how deep it lay hidden or how terrifying it might reveal things to thee. But in that moment, as he held on to his sister, fear rippled just beneath the surface. The danger wasn't over. Shadows lingered. New mysteries beckoned, urging them forward. The night held echoes of questions yet unanswered, and as he looked toward the horizon, a flicker of determination ignited. They stood on the brink of a new beginning. But before he could catch his breath, a shiver ran through the still air, a whisper of unanticipated darkness lurking just outside the fringes of their new reality. This is the moment, so subscribe immediately to to the channel right now so you don't miss our upcoming exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to keep the algorithm happy. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this.